Greetings and salutations, everyone. Good to be back with you. If you've noticed my little tape there, you can probably deduce that I have a little bit of a knee injury going on. I tweaked the MCL a couple of weeks ago, and I've rested it, I've iced it, I've heated it, I've CBD'd it, I've done a lot to it. But I actually have just started getting back into a little bit of movement. I highly recommend, if you have an injury of any sort, that one, you rest and you do all that stuff, but then when you come back into your routine, that you do it mindfully and very aware that you are working with something. So this will actually be my first yoga practice in some time. So I'm going to modify a lot, and I think this will really be good if you are coming back from an injury, coming back from a long absence of movement, if you're a beginner, anything like that. The props I'm going to have handy for me today are a block, a strap, and a folded blanket. So that's all going to become clear. So let's find our way to the top of our mat. And I'm going to take my feet a little bit wider than my hips today because I need to feel like I'm very grounded, that I'm very sturdy today. Let your eyes close. Maybe hands on top of heart center. A couple of breaths in and out. A little bit of rocking back and forth. And eventually grounding down into the ball and heel of your foot. And you want your toes to just be laying on your mat, not gripping into your mat. We'll take the arms overhead on that inhale. Exhale, let's fold over. I'm going to bend my knees quite a bit because my hamstrings are, of course, very tight. Halfway up on the inhale. Exhale, fold. Inhale all the way up. Exhale, hands to the heart. Let's do that 2 more times. Inhale, reach up. Exhale, dive out over your legs. Halfway up on that inhale. Exhale, fold. Inhale all the way up. Exhale, hands to the heart. Inhale, reach up. Exhale, let's fold over. Maybe have a cat nearby, maybe pet it. Halfway up on the in-breath. Exhale, fold. Inhale all the way up. Keep the arms overhead this time. We're going to add a little side bend into the mix. So lean over to your left. Inhale back up to the center. Exhale over to the right. Inhale back to the center. Exhale, dive out over your legs. I'm going to attempt my first little modification at the sun salutation. Halfway up on my inhale. So my right leg is the one that's kind of giving me trouble. So I'm going to step my left foot back, then my right foot back to a down dog. And, it'll take me a couple of efforts here to realize where my feet should go. My knees are going to stay bent because, again, tighter hamstrings, things start to tighten up around your injured body part. Then I'm going to come down into a little bit of a tabletop. See how that feels. It feels okay. Aren't you happy to be a part of this journey? Exhale all the way down onto the belly. I'm going to move my blanket out from under my face here. Come up a little bit into a cobra pose. Forehead back to the floor. Back up to my tabletop. To my downward facing dog. A big step forward is probably not going to feel great to me, so I'm going to take several small steps. Halfway up on the inhale. Exhale, fold. Arms out to the side. Inhale up. Exhale, hands to the heart. Let's do that again. Arms overhead. We'll take our side bend over to the left. Hi, Frank. Back to the center. Over to the right. Back to the center. Dive out over those legs. Halfway up on the inhale. Exhale. I'm going to step my left foot back. My right foot back to downward facing dog. I'm going to be very okay that it's not very cute currently. Tip forward. Let's see if we can go for a plank pose. Yes, we can. Now at this point, you could either bring those knees to your mat and then come all the way down onto the belly, or let's see if I can turn this into not the best feeling, no, up dog, back to down dog. So this is a good way, is in your practice, to realize like, oh, okay, got a little ways to go there. Walk your feet back up to the top of your mat. Halfway up on the inhale, exhale, fold. Inhale up, exhale, hands to the heart. Let's try it one more time. Arms overhead, your side bend over to your left, back up to the center, your side bend over to your right, back to your center, fold out over those legs with bent knees. I'm going to step my left foot back, my right foot back, down dog. Then if it's comfortable for you, you can also come into tabletop and do a little bit of cat-cow. Again, you could come down to belly, do your cobra, go from your, hi mister, go from your plank to your up dog, back to your down dog. Then we'll walk those feet back up to the mat. We'll do a longer down dog very soon. Halfway up on the inhale, exhale, fold. I want my feet about hip width apart. I'm going to bend my knees a little bit and bring my torso up to kind of a high chair pose, kind of more bar stool really. I'm going to bring my hands to my heart, roll my shoulders back and down, curl my tailbone under a little bit there. Then inhale, stand up, little bend in the knees, stepping my left foot back about 3 feet or so, and a slight lunge, going into the lunge on my right leg. Again, this is my not happy leg, to the point where I'm like, okay, this is where I can stay. Frank's checking out my alignment. Now, normally I would be maybe about 5 to 10% deeper into this lunge, but I'm okay with it not being there right now. One more breath. All right, then hands to your hips. Step your left foot up to meet your right foot. Inhale. Exhale. A little bend in those knees because you don't want to be locked into the joints. Right foot's going to go back about 3 feet. And again, I'm moving very sort of, hesitantly here. A little lunge into my left leg. Now, I'm kind of babying this side a little bit too. Like I could go into a deeper lunge there. One, I feel that a little bit in my right knee, not in the most pleasant way. But also two, I kind of want to dial it back on this side too, so that I don't end up with a super strong, flexible left side and then a really weaker, tighter right side. Hands back to your hips, step back up to the top of your mat, feet about hip width apart. Let's bend those knees, sink down into that chair pose, arms alongside the head, and then I feel like maybe a 1/4 inch lower in my hips. Let's do 2 more breaths here. Then stand up, slight bend. I'm going to step my left foot back further, opening up into this long side of my mat. Then lunging into my right leg for warrior 2. Now same thing, I'm not going as deep into that lunge on my right leg. In yoga, we talk a lot about an edge in a pose, where you're like, ooh, this is as far as I can go. And then maybe you go a little bit beyond that edge. If you're rehabbing, I would say at most, like an inch before that edge. Then I'm just going to straighten that leg. I'm going to step back up to the top of my mat. Inhale. I'll step this right foot back as far as I can go. Now, even though, as I lunge into this left leg, my right leg is not bearing the weight of this pose, because of the angle of my foot, I might feel that a little bit in my right knee. So that's why I'm not going as deep in this left leg as well. One more breath. All right, then hands to those hips. This time I'm going to hop my right foot up a couple of steps, then come up to the top of my mat. Feet a little closer this time. Bend those knees, sink those hips, chair pose. It's very good if you got a knee situation to strengthen the muscles of the quads and the hamstrings. Quick sip of water. Stand up. Now I'm going to back up to about halfway of my mat and move my right foot forward a little bit. We're going to play with the idea of going into warrior 3. So a little bend in this knee, and I'm going to slide my left foot back onto my tiptoes. Now I'm going to straighten my right leg, hinge forward a little bit. This could be my warrior 3 right here. I could attempt to lift that left foot, or if you have a piece of furniture nearby, you could use that to support you. I still have a slight bend going in this right knee. Ooh, that I feel. All right, then I'm gonna bring my left foot next to my right foot, bring my torso up. That was a little bit of a lot. All right, I'm gonna scoot my left foot forward, take my right foot back. Now my left leg tends to be a little not so supported in balance anyway, so I'm glad to have my bookcase here in case I need to grab it. But so far it seems like I may not need to. Ooh, okay. Left foot next to your right foot, or sorry, right foot next to your left foot. Let's step that left foot back again, about 3 feet. This time I've got a little bit in my right knee. We're going to play with triangle pose. Now, one thing to be aware of is that sometimes in triangle we can hyperextend or lock into that knee. So if you feel it in the back of the knee, that's what you're doing. I'm going to hinge forward here. Then I'm going to bring my left hand, or sorry, my right hand to my right shin and take my left hand up. So far, so good. 2 more breaths. And then torso up, step back up to the top of your mat. Ooh. Keep that left foot where it is. Step your right foot back about 3 feet. Long spine, open to that long side of your mat. Start to hinge forward a bit. Left hand down, right hand up. Again, I'm just kind of dialing down the performance on my stronger side, just to kind of keep some semblance of balance between right and left sides. All right, then we're going to come back up, step back up to the top of your mat. Last time, feet together, bend your knees, sink your hips, chair pose. This one actually feels pretty good. The warmer you get, the better the poses are going to feel. But again, you want to be mindful that you don't just kind of dive back in. Inhale, reach up. Exhale, fold out over your legs. Step back to your down dog. I can take a little bit of that bend out of my knees. Forward into your plank pose. Knees can be up or down. Then exhale all the way down. I'm going to shift my elbows up under my shoulders for Sphinx pose. Shoulders down from the ears. So there's some poses that I know are going to be out of the wheelhouse for a little while. Bow pose, camel pose in the back bend family. And I think if you find yourself in this situation and you're taking a class and those are the poses that are being called, for example, if bow pose is the pose that the teacher is giving out, come down into Sphinx pose. You're still going to get a back bend. You're not getting the exact benefits of the pose because it's a different pose. And we're going to come down, roll over very gracefully onto the back, knees bent. Here's a tricky part. Feet on the floor. All right, we're going to go into bridge pose. This can also be your substitute pose for bow or camel. I'm not going to back my feet up quite as far, so this is going to be a smaller bridge. Curl that tailbone up, lift up the hips. I'm going to scoot my shoulder blades and my arms under me, but I'm not going for the interlace of my hands. Curl that tailbone under, press up those hips. I feel this a bit, but I'm not at my edge. I'm maybe around the corner from my edge. 2 more breaths. And then we're going to come back down. We're going to do that again. So I'm going to take my feet about hip width apart. I kind of, again, sort of just tipping my toes in the water. Bringing them closer, not so great. So lifting up, wiggle, wiggle. This time I might, yeah, I'll go for the interlace. Let's go for 3 more breaths. All right, then release the hands. Take those shoulder blades away from each other. Come down vertebrae by vertebrae. Pause there. Now I'm going to grab my strap. Uncurl your strap. This is going to be fun too. Bring your knee towards you. I kind of have to lasso it. Strap around right foot. Then I'm going to take my right leg up. As you can see, I very much have a bend in this knee. First thing I'm going to try to do though is with the bend is press through my right heel. I'm going to let my hand slide down a little bit. I'm going to take my leg forward and see how much of the bend I can take out of that knee. And then I'll bring it back up. Okay, so far so good. And then I'm going to send my left leg out onto the floor. I'm going to go for 10 breaths here. Again, if you press through that heel, you'll get a good stretch in that calf. Mine has felt really tight. At any point, if you really start to feel this in that knee, give a little bend to it. 2 more breaths. Then I'm going to take my strap into my left hand, and I'm just going to let that right leg drift a bit to the left. I'm going to let my right hip come off the floor, but I'm not going to try and stack. I'm really trying to get into this IT band of this right leg. And look at your right foot. Sometimes I tend to tip my toes up and my heel down. I want to keep my heel and my big toe on the same line. And then let's bring it back up. Bring that left foot to the floor. I'm going to switch legs midair here. And then very mindfully, I'm bringing that right foot to the floor. All right, so press through that heel. See how much of the bend you can take out of that leg. And then just straight up. So I know that pigeon and fire log and maybe even cobbler or butterfly pose are going to be out of the deck for a little bit. So I got to find other ways to get into these hips. We're going to take that right leg out a little bit and then strap into the right hand. Let that left leg come over to the right. And so this is what I was talking about earlier. See, that would be kind of a torqued foot. And then I kind of don't really get it in my IT band. But if I level up, ooh, that foot, high IT band, there we go. And here comes Frank to see if we're, to see how we're doing. And we'll hold it here until he's finished. He has this thing about rubbing his head against my foot. I mean, how cute is that? Let's bring the leg back up. Bend the right knee. Then the left knee, we'll take the strap off of that. Let's put it to the side. We might use that here in just a moment. I'm going to roll to my right and prop up to a seated position here. Now, here's where I'm going to use my blanket. You could use this 2 ways. You could either sit on the edge of it to kind of roll you forward, or you could roll it up, and then I will put that under my right knee. Actually, I'll have it under both knees. Feet about hip width apart. If you can't reach the feet, here's where that strap could come in very, very handy. Keep some length in the spine. We're going to do this pose 2 times. So the first time, this is just kind of the warm-up to the pose. And then we're going to bring up that torso. I'm going to bend my knees a little bit. All right, so I'm going to attempt a fire log. well, half of a fire log. So, crossing my right ankle, I'm going to grab my block. I'm going to let my right knee be supported by this block. Now, I could also bring that blanket. Oh, yeah, this is a fire log. And I'm not going to hinge forward here. In fact, I may take that block up a notch. Frank is quite enamored with the yoga strap. He's a star. 2 more breaths. All right, then move mindfully here, uncross and extend. Now, I could not have held on to that pose any longer. So if you get in that shape and you're like, this is not feeling good, then you by all means should come out of it. So now I'm gonna try it on my other side. So I'm gonna put that blanket under my knee. This is gonna keep me from pressing the back of my knee down into the floor and kind of overextending, hyperextending into it. Bring my left ankle on top here. And even here, I still have to be very mindful of what's going on into this right leg because the weight of this left leg on top of it. Two more breaths. I went quiet because I was very much in my head about what's going on in there. Both legs out again. I'm going to bring my feet together this time. Again, I'm keeping that blanket under there just to keep me from fully extending here. Now, I can round into it a little bit. Fortunately, my low back supports that. Let's do 3 more breaths. And then we'll bring the torso up. I'm going to remove my blanket. I'm just going to try here. Let's see what would happen if soles of the feet come together. And I would just put a block under that right knee. I could maybe even use the blanket. Now, if you're feeling this in those knees, come out of this and maybe go into a wider leg forward fold. Like that. And again, this should all be dictated by what you're feeling and whatever is injured. I know I didn't talk anything about shoulders because I wasn't being affected by shoulders, but if you have a knee issue going on, you always want to be like, okay, this feels good, I can go there, or like, oh shit, and then you want to back out of it. All right, we're going to bring the torso up. We're going to come onto our back. We'll do a twist. Ooh. I tell you, it has made me very mindful of how fast I just kind of fling myself into poses. All right, so that right knee over the right hip, and I'm going to scoot my hips over a little bit, taking my right leg over to the left. If you need to draw that knee closer to your chest instead of your hip, feel free. In line with your hip will give you more of an IT band stretch, but that might not feel so great for you. And then come back to the center. Send out that right leg, bend the left, taking that left leg over to the right. And then coming back to the center. You can draw both knees into your chest and just hold on to the back of your thighs instead of the knees or the shins. So then you kind of have something that keeps you from like really squeezing that knee joint. Then from here, extend out into the shape of Shavasana for you today. We're just a brief one. So this was not a long practice. And again, I think if you were coming back from an injury or an illness or just a hiatus from movement, jumping into an hour class might just make you hate it even more, and then you're off of it again. This is less than 30 minutes. It's a good way to test the waters. It's a good way to kind of tiptoe back into the waters. So in the shape of Shavasana, let's work on just softening the whole body. So your legs extended. If that feels good, you can certainly keep your knees bent. Arms alongside you. As you breathe in, either flexing the feet or curling the toes under, making fists, squeezing the eyes. Hold at the top of that inhale. Exhale, soften everything. Inhale, tighten all of that again, but this time squeeze the glutes, draw the shoulders up, purse the lips. Hold at the top. As you exhale, soften everything. Then this time on the inhale, try to tighten everything from your feet to the top of your head. Hold that breath at the top. Sip in a little more and a little more. Then open your mouth, exhale. Wiggle out those fingers, wiggle out those toes. Now, if you can stay in this shape for another 2 to 3 minutes, I highly encourage you to do that. If you need to get on with the rest of your day, I appreciate you doing this little practice with me, and I send you healing and loving vibes. Namaste.